Welcome to Narrative's Leadership Story Talks, where great leaders go beyond the bottom line to create lasting impact. Join hosts Jerome and Julienne Ryan as they uncover the stories behind real-world challenges, offering practical insights to help you lead with empathy, authenticity, and purpose. Each episode dives into how leaders use storytelling to build trust, foster connection, and inspire action. Whether you're navigating workplace dynamics, driving change, or building high-performing teams.
And I was actually quite surprised how good they were. That it was like you'd come back and you go, oh, actually, that's pretty good. And it could be almost on par with most people's stories, but there was something missing. There was something that just didn't seem quite right. And it was, to me, it was like the authenticity. You could sort of tell it wasn't real.
Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you. I'm Jerome CEO of Narrative.
And I'm Julienne Ryan, and I'm excited about doing our debrief today.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really interested in what our guest, Gabrielle Dolan, coming to us from Australia, in talking about her book, Story Intelligence. Really interesting to hear this experiment that she did, of comparing stories that were created out of thin air by an AI tool, and then comparing those with stories by real human beings and giving them to people, but not telling them which was which. And everyone across the board said the AI stories were actually quite good, and that was surprising, but that there was something missing. And
Yeah.
Gabrielle was explaining in this quote that it's the authenticity piece. It's doesn't quite feel real. So I thought we might have a few things to say about that.
Absolutely. It's amazing how we are animals. We are sensing creatures, and that instinct really does us justice, because that's what's kept us safe and aware for thousands of years. So that little element is so important. And it's very much like, I read a lot of people's materials or notes where they're sending me sometimes, and I can tell when it's so curated by AI that they forgot to put themselves in it. So I think I know her session was a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
To not get too lazy or too dependent, to embrace that stress of the creative process when you're struggling for a world, to make sure you keep your soul and person in there.
Yeah.
So that's my thing.
Well, it's that voice, right? And I think we often talk about this in our work, is we tell stories so that our authentic voice can come through. Because if we don't, other people are going to tell stories about us. And whenever that happens, it's very much hit and miss, and it's like, well, okay, that is part of who I am, but you missed a whole chunk. If I had told my story myself, I would have told it differently. And it's kind of like that, really. It's as if someone else was telling the story for you, and they might get some facts correctly, etc. But your own authentic voice isn't going to come through. And I think that's really important to remember, and in terms of what this reminds me of is 10, 15 years ago, shortly after I really got involved with narrative and storytelling, I remember clients bringing us in because they were saying that their people suffered from death by PowerPoint. And that's what we were all talking about 10, 15 years ago, is like and PowerPoint, when it came out, just like, I don't want to make too many comparisons, but it was very exciting. You could put things together, you could make them swoosh and come in very elegantly. You could put images, and it was open to all. Everybody could do it, essentially. The learning curve wasn't that steep. And so what happened was, of course, people just started using it more and more and more and more until it was too much. And people just lost the human element in those PowerPoints. And so as a result, they were calling us in to say, okay, who's the person that's actually presenting that PowerPoint? Because we're not seeing them. So could you help us bring that person out, please? And then it evolved into, well, those points that you're making in that PowerPoint, could you bring those to life with a story? Okay, yes, we can do that. And I feel like we're at this moment with AI where it's so exciting and we keep using it. And at some point, we're going to say, wait a second. And I think we are there now. I'm losing the human thread. I'm losing who's Jerome in this? Was that AI? Who's Julienne? And so I think to avoid that risk or that danger, really think of how are you using AI, as we said in this interview with Gabrielle, which I encourage everybody to listen to fully. Use it as a tool, as a supportive, kind of creative member of your team, as opposed to the one that's going to actually tell the story for you. You still have to tell the story. It's got to be your voice, because that's who we're going to remember. That's who we're going to want to follow. So, yeah.
Well, in my talks, I make jokes about PowerPoint that I was, called on to, with the expectation we always have to think in bullet points as opposed to something a little more genuine and engaging. And, Gabrielle is wonderful because she's saying it's a collaborator. It's a sounding board. It's another tool. And like you said, in PowerPoint world, in the beginning, it was exciting because you got to see big pictures and things on the screen, but we got so dependent on it to be the communicator and telling everything we needed to do instead of stepping away from the screen and bringing things to life.
Yeah.
But I'll leave you with one thing is when way before we became a duo, way before I started doing story work, when I was in my office meeting candidates and meeting employees and they were sharing background or sharing context, their foreheads were great telegraphs of where they were just given the facts. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I like this. And it was like flat energy if they weren't really enthusiastic about it or really didn't speak to them. But once they hit on something that really spoke to their soul and what they were connected with, their whole body chemistry changed.
Yeah.
So it wasn't more about grilling questions of situation, action, results. I was watching what was in the frame in front of me. And I always keep that visual with me because that is the important part about what makes us tick. If you're just phoning it in, it's not going to come across.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And yeah, these models are great. These things that we follow, and we want to hit on certain points. But if you're not in there, if your personal experience is not in there, and you're going through those motions, it just doesn't land. And then you wonder why. So many people are like, I don't get it. I rehearsed it. I practiced it. I even asked my friends, etc. I got good feedback. And then I'm in front of the audience and it doesn't seem to impact anyone. And that's really just because you haven't managed to put in your own little sprinkling of stories over that. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's really good advice. On that note, if you all want to learn more about how you can take these experiences, take your PowerPoint, take your whatever you're doing with AI, and sprinkle that humanity into it, and make sure that your voice comes through, really consider enrolling yourself in one of our training programs, whether that's one-on-one or as a group with your team, with your leadership team. There's a variety of things that we offer. That's all on narrative.com, NARATIV.com. And obviously, you can also find lots of resources in our podcasts with guests like Gabrielle Dolan. At this point, we've got more than 160. So that's narrative.com/podcast. Well,
Jerome, you're so gracious how you say my bubble in my head is like, and don't bore the heck out of everybody when you're presenting something.
Yeah.
This is the secret gift you can really capitalize on.
Yes.
Take it.
Yeah. One of my sales training programs using storytelling, the title was "Your Pitch is Boring." So stop being boring. And it's true. I mean, most people's pitches are really boring, and sales pitches, and that goes for a lot of different things. Most of your PowerPoints are boring, I'm sorry to say, but that's the truth. And so, but it's an opportunity. So now you've got an opportunity. You've listened to us. Reach out to us and see how you can make these exciting and engaging, just like those movies you love to watch, those books you love to read, those people you love to hear speak. That's what's available to you. So yeah, thanks, Julienne, for that reminder of being a little less gracious and more to the point. I appreciate that that's your New Yorker self. That's great.
Absolutely.
I love it. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Thanks, Julienne, as always. And we'll see you next time.
For more information on the narrative listening and storytelling method and how it can help your business, go to narrative.com.